Welcome to the recap show. It's Monday, March 21st,
Oh boy, is
2022.
it ever? We're only a half hour late today.
Yes, exactly. This is Tulio Sergusa broadcasting from Southern California. And joining me is Kim Lantis are you back in Mexico or are you still in
I'm
Montana?
actually in Wyoming today, just outside of
Wyoming.
Yellowstone.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
So we're recapping last week's shows. We had three shows last week, three live conversation. The first one was with Rajiv Mehta, who's the CEO of Atlas of Care. And that was a design thinking show. We
Mhm.
talked about fostering a community of connection and care. And then we had a conversation with John Estafanous, who's the CEO at RallyBright. And we talked about inclusion and outperformance, the twin
Okay.
imperatives of unstoppable teams. I did not make that show. I had a conflict for that day.
No
So I'm going
problem.
to count on Kim to really
Got you
recap
covered.
that one. And then finally, we had looking for talent in unexpected places. That was with Richard Bronson, who's the founder and CEO at 70 million jobs. All great conversations. I have to admit, I got emotional with the last show with
You
Richard
did?
Bronson. I did. I did. There was a moment where no one sees this, but we have this little chat window here that we talk to each other during the show. And I was like, Kim, please take this. I can't talk right now because it was very moving to discover the stigma is real. If apparently 30% of all Americans have had some kind of criminal record, which is huge.
Adults.
It's a lot of people, 70 million people, or ex
Nope,
cons, or
no.
no,
Returning
that's not
citizens.
returning
Returning
citizens. See,
citizens.
you see, there's the stigma too. So, what made me emotional is that I realized I'm one of those people who's part of the problem. I've looked at this stigma that way, and I really learned a lot from that show about what it's like to pay your dues and come back into society and then
Mhm.
have difficulty just getting back to some kind of normalcy, and how that impacts how many these folks end up going back to jail,
Yeah.
which is not necessary, right? Because if they had opportunity, they could essentially create a new life for themselves. So it was very eye-opening to see uh, the challenges for returning citizens to have opportunities to get jobs. And it was also very eye-opening to see how devoted many of these folks are to
Hmm.
doing well at their job. They know
Yeah.
it's hard to find a job. They know it, so they go the extra mile. They
Loyalty.
work hard. They're very loyal. They're very committed. And so there's a talent pool of 70 million people that um, is an unexpected place to find them that are really dedicated workers. And
Yeah.
so it was very eye-opening to see that there's many companies missing out on folks that would be very dedicated employees. And the tech industry is the worst at employing returning citizens. So,
That's what he said. Yeah.
as a member of the tech industry, I was ashamed to hear that. So, I hope you guys watch the show on dojo.live. It'll be very
Hmm.
eye opening, and I hope it moves many of you watching, especially C-level executives, to reconsider uh, expanding your diversity and inclusion efforts to people who are returning citizens who have had criminal records in their lives.
For sure.
So, what about you, Kim? What stood out for you out of these three shows?
Yeah, I mean, before we wrap up with 70 million jobs, I think that one of the most interesting takes with Richard also was the fact that they are a for profit, right? Usually, when you have organizations who are helping returning citizens or people with a criminal record, it's nonprofit based, and there's a lot of them out there, and they're really great. But one, I think the key factors, at least for their success, is that it's actually for profit, and that seems to be working in their favor. And it's what kind of makes them a little bit different as well. So I thought, just from an entrepreneurship business standpoint, it was an interesting take as well. So I will go ahead and talk about RallyBright. That was the show with John Estafanous, and that was about inclusion and outperformance and the tool that they have to help do that. And what their tool does is it helps the entire company, but it's focusing on individual teams, right? So how these kind of parts make up this whole. And with this thought that if all your teams are healthy, then by nature, right, the entire company would be healthy. And what I really thought was unique about the platform that they're utilizing, and kind of just what it even means to be inclusive. They have different parameters that they measure backed by behavioral science. But I liked how they not only evaluate teams, but they help you evaluate yourself as an individual. And it doesn't just stop there about identifying where your weak points might be, but they actually have the tech to include action items, right? This is where you as an individual need to improve. You should try X, Y, and Z, as well as this is what you as a team could improve. Try A, B, C. And I just thought it was a really unique approach, a great company. And honestly, it's one of those tech companies that utilize their own tech in their own company, which I think is somewhat unique as well. So I really appreciated what they're doing at RallyBright.
You know the saying, the cobbler with broken shoes, that did not apply to these guys.
Not apply.
They're the cobblers who have great working shoes. So
or the beauticians with great hair and the ophthalmologist who's not wearing eyeglasses, I guess.
So many things, right? But in this case, that's not the case, right? They actually use their own tech. So congratulations for doing that. And then finally, we spoke with Rajiv Mehta. That's part of the Design Thinking Show. If you guys haven't seen our Design Thinking Show, it's usually on Tuesday mornings or Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific. And we go through 7 key questions that are designed to, no pun intended, designed to help learn about what methodologies and methods and approaches companies are using to design better organizational structures, better customer experiences. And it's deeply rooted on leveraging things like empathy and emotional intelligence to create these kinds of experiences. So it's a unique show. And I really enjoyed their approach to learning what people want just by listening, spending a tremendous amount of time listening to what people want and what matters to them and taking notes, right? Because sometimes we go in through these surveys with preconceived notion or narrative we're trying to support. And you can skew questions to support your narrative. Anyone who's been a CMO, a chief product officer, knows very well how easy it is to do that. You can support a narrative and have surveys that support that narrative. Unfortunately, what happens, that doesn't necessarily align with what people really need. So what they did at Atlas of Care is really paid attention and listened and took notes about what matters to their participants and their network of participants, and designed how they support that around the participants' terms. So it's really like, you talk about companies that are customer centric. This is the extreme version of customer centric, where literally listening and paying attention and taking notes is shaping the way an organization creates and fosters community, because they're also in the business as a nonprofit to help community, to help itself, right? So you sometimes take a position, even as a nonprofit, where you're there to help the community, but the communities might be telling you, we want to be here to help ourselves. So they really paid attention to that and then designed their offerings and what they're doing to be empowering to the community to support itself, which is very eye-opening. So if you missed that show, check it out. You might learn a trick or two about how to leverage design thinking in a way that can help you improve the way you serve your customers and members of your organization. All right, Kim, what do we got coming up this week?
We've got 3 live shows in the bag. I think 2 at 12 o'clock and 1 of your design thinking shows. So up first is tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday, the 22nd, with Rob Palumbo, CEO of Outpoint, where we will be talking about AI-powered media mix modeling built for the post-iOS 14 reality. And then on Wednesday, also at 12 o'clock, we will be talking to, give me one second, John Sokol, who is at Limbics, and that is the role of digital treatments in the adolescent mental health crisis, which I bet COVID had something to do with that as well, right? And then finally, on Thursday morning, March 24th, on the Design Thinking Show, we will be speaking with Daniel Raskin, CPO, CMO, and co-founder of Imperative, about RevOps and revenue marketing, the emerging practice of unifying go-to-market operations. So don't miss it.
Should be a lot of fun. Come back tomorrow at 12 o'clock, dojo.live. It's that simple.